Have we gone live? We got people coming in. I've just got the cleaning lady coming into the office. Get her on the podcast. Get her on the. Have we got people on? If people can let me know they're listening, they're watching, that'd be fantastic. Rally a few troops before I get stuck into it tonight. Where are we? Cool. All right, might kick it off. Obviously, first things first. Mindful Oz has a new set of hoodies. They're pretty rocking. I'm going to be uploading those in the next few days. We've got grey hoodies, black hoodies, new crew necks, new t-shirts in both black and white. Also, I believe we have females specific sizes this time, which is great. Yeah, so these will be coming to you in the next few days. Obviously, all our income streams at Mindful Oz are shut off at the moment due to COVID. So any help and support in purchasing some of our merch goes a long way to us being able to still continue to provide help and support to people out there, especially in these tough times. Secondly, given that I've got a microphone and we broadcast and get seen by a fair few people, more than what I thought, which has been fantastic, I wanted to do a big thank you to the people that look after Mindful Oz. So we'll start off with the Andrews Foundation. The Andrews Foundation have been amazing in providing Mindful Oz with the financial stability, I guess, to be able to provide mental health first aid to communities in Gippsland. It was our goal to train up over 300 people with mental health first aid this year in each region of Gippsland, Bass Coast, South Gippsland, Latrobe Valley, Wellington Shires, Baw Shires, and everyone that I've missed. So big thank you to Andrews Foundation for making that possible. I know it's normally a $500 course, so to be able to provide that to the communities at just $25 is incredible, and we're extremely grateful for that. Secondly, to the people that provide the venues and rooms for us to provide that training at the West Gippsland Libraries, we're hugely grateful for that opportunity to work within your facilities and provide people also with a better understanding of what the library provides the community, which is fantastic also. And our third one is Ensure Solutions. They've just been a big help since day one, and we wouldn't have been able to be here having this live discussion tonight if it wasn't for them. It would have been game over for Mindful Oz a long time ago had we not had the support and love of Ensure Solutions. So while there is many other people that help us along the way, I just wanted to draw light to those three today. Obviously, I'm up here by myself at the moment, so I might just bring the other clown in and get him involved. I'll bring him in and then I'll give him a wrap. So we've got Budgie coming on, Damien Bugeja. I hope I've said it right, mate. Welcome. I'm just, before you kick it off and take over, I think it's important that anytime you have a guest on, you give them the talk about their accolades and their story the way they deserve. I mean, there's a lot of people that go on these, get me onto these interviews all the time, and you spend an hour of it telling your story, and I know that can be traumatic for some people. So I'd like to run over your highlights, mate. Obviously, there's peaks and troughs, and we'll get through that as we go, but that's all made you the person, created the person that I've got in front of me or next to me right now, and it's quite a person. So episode 3. On this week's episode, I'm joined by Damien Bugeja. Damien and I have known each other only for a short period of time, but in that time I've been amazed at his story and how he's handled himself through significant adversity to ultimately become the man that he is today. And how he just uses that positivity and gratitude to help bring up the people around him, including myself. So unfortunately in 2011 we'll start with the positive to start off with. 2011 at the age 18, Damien went to the draft combine at the AFL, testing as a midfielder from the Calder Cannons to live out his childhood dream. In the next year, Damien was only 19 when his father, Joseph, was diagnosed with a rare stomach cancer. At 176 centimetres and 77 kgs, he would experience some of the most disastrous luck possible, injuring his shoulder in 2015, requiring surgery. 2016, he would require surgery on the other shoulder. 2017, you did your first knee, requiring surgery and a 12 months layout. And during that layout, after actually sitting out that 12 months layout with that knee injury, you came back in 2018 only to do the other knee and needing reconstructive surgery. Mate, some would say that you must have clipped a few black cats along along your journey, but more extraordinarily, you continue to tell me that you don't count yourself unlucky, but extremely grateful for the journey and how it has shaped you, knowing that so many other people out there find themselves in worse situations and environments than you and myself. Unfortunately, in the year 2017, Joseph Bugeja, Damien's father and his best mate, passed away from that rare form of cancer called, I'm going to stuff that up, pseudomyxoma peritoni. How have I gone there?
Pseudomyxoma peritoni. You're about 95%.
95, bad. Over the last couple of years, Damien was conjuring up ideas in ways in which he could help raise funds and awareness for the Peter MacCallum Cancer Foundation. As his annual family vacation trip to Yarrawonga fast approached in 2019, it hit him that running to Yarrawonga was the perfect way to recognise the amazing work that all the staff at the Peter Mac Cancer Centre do and how inspiring they are on a daily basis, and tie it back into something that meant so much to him and his family for so long. It was that moment where Damien launched Run for Joey, as you see up in the top corner with the logo and the shaka. A ridiculous mammoth amount of kilometres from his hometown in Craigieburn to his family spot in Yarrawonga to raise much-needed awareness and funds for the amazing support given to him by the staff at Peter Mac over the years that his dad was receiving that treatment. Damien is just recently back from this trip, just completing it in the last month. He finished it in 6 days, the equivalent of 36 hours on the run, on his feet, 290 kilometres, 1,267 metres of elevation, and 24,000 calories burnt. Now, some of us would like that 24,000 calories, but I don't know about the rest of it, mate. An incredible feat, topping it off by raising in excess of $50,000 for the Peter Mac Cancer Centre, which is just incredible, mate. Budgie, you're a challenge beast with an incredibly resilient mind, an even better mindset, mate, and we'll get to that as we move along. But welcome, mate, to episode 3 of Confined by Walls, Not by Our Heart.
Absolute star, Matty. Absolute star. And it makes me more emotional when someone reads that back to me. So you're quite familiar with telling your story, and you mentioned that, it's always nice to introduce your guest, but hearing it back and hearing the story and the journey back, it made me quite emotional just then. So
mate,
thank you for that.
Sit and soak it up, mate. I mean, you have been on an incredible journey and one that's inspired many. I mean, I wouldn't have got to meet you if it wasn't the case. And I know you didn't just stop there at the end of Run for Joey. I know it's just been over in the last month, and you would have had every reason to sit still and to soak in that and to bathe in that and give yourself a 12-month break. But we'll get to what's next for you shortly. But I want to start with those injuries and those setbacks. I mean, walk us through the early part of little Budgie, running out there playing football. You had the world at your feet, from my understanding. You're quite the footballer. Do you want to talk us through some of those setbacks, mate? Because as I said, some people would assume that you've hit a black cat, been through what you have been through.
I think it's quite an interesting one, because at the time when it was all happening, you kind of sit back and you say, why me? This is my dream. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. And I don't think it's probably up until maybe this year, maybe just before the run, that I kind of reflected and sat back and said to myself, was footy really what I was meant to be doing? Was footy really what I really wanted to be doing? And now that I look back and I'm mature enough now to reflect on that, I'm going to say probably not. I look back and I say, and what we've achieved now and the connections that we've created now is so much greater than what I could have ever achieved playing footy and the impact we've created. So, don't get me wrong, going through as a young kid, my dream was to play footy. Like any kid's dream that's active, that's playing any form of sport, it's just natural. You want to make it to the highest level possible in that field of sport, athletics, business, whatever it is you're doing. So for me, all I wanted to do was play footy. All I ever envisioned was kicking the footy around the MCG grand final day. And, that's what I worked towards. Now that I'm a little bit older, 26 now, and I look back and, the injuries were probably a result of me having the wrong mindset towards my training, my nutrition, my balance in life. I came from a very beautiful family, very amazing upbringing, surrounded by a lot of love, care, support, all of those things that you cherish now in life. I was supported by as a young kid. So when I look back to the injuries and people say, oh, it's just luck, I don't believe too much in luck. I don't believe that luck just happens. I feel like those injuries were, one, either a sign that that's not what I was supposed to be doing, or two, I wasn't putting in the right amount of work to be playing at that level. So, yeah, there's something that looks back on me now and thinks, that I don't regret any of those injuries. Yes, they were very monumental injuries and, major setbacks in that time of my life. But if I had to rewind the clock, I'd definitely just do it all again because, where we've got to now in our journey, it's such a special one and probably wouldn't have happened without, those traumatic experiences along the way.
Yeah, so you're sort of pointing at the fact that the world happens for us and not to us, and that by
100%.
having those injuries and going through those hardships, it's put you on this path right now, similar to the way in which I've created Mindful Oz. I mean, this is something that I have envisioned that I would have, and certainly wasn't a dream of mine to have gone through what I've gone through, but I'm also of the same opinion that this trauma and this pain happened to me and not other people for a reason, and it happened to me so I could sit here and have these sorts of conversations tonight. So it's nice to hear someone of the same mindset that.
And it's just trauma. You would know trauma is perception. It's pretty much what it is. Like, your experiences are only as traumatic as you envision them in your head. Like there is people that go through. And you never compare situations because, the way I dealt with, obviously dad passing away versus maybe the way you've dealt with, your experiences of being homeless and things like that, very different emotions, very different the way we control those emotions. So, quite an interesting one in that sense that we all have a different perspective on what our perception of trauma is. So,
Were you similar to me in regards that it took me a long time to get to the place of acceptance of those traumas and to know that they were doing something for me and that there was positives in that message? Knowing that you went through all those injuries, even prior to your dad passing, all those injuries, did you sit and bathe in that and know and pour me that, or were you straight up and about? Did you always have such a strong mindset?
I always had a strong mindset to get through trauma. Like I don't know what it was. I think I was always destined to be able to deal with that sort of thing. So when I was going through the injuries, obviously during the time that it happened, especially the first couple, the first shoulder reco, very positive mindset. Second shoulder reco, slightly positive mindset. First ACL reco, not too bad. Last ACL reco, mind absolutely shot. And I think it wasn't so much the injury itself, it's what you lose and what gets taken away from you. And this is perfect timing to talk about this because, everything we're going through with the coronavirus, it's not until things have taken away from you that you start to say, shit, like how grateful am I for what I have? How much do I actually cherish just being alive? So, once I started getting all these things taken away from me, it started building up. It started just building up and started getting a little bit frustrating. And don't get me wrong, like you can deal with trauma as best you can, but there comes a point where, and you would know, there comes a point where you're just like, I've had enough. I've had enough of being in pain. I've had enough of sitting on the couch and my knees busted, my shoulders. I can't even go to the toilet. I had to get my parents to bloody shower me. And this happened 4 years in a row. So there does come a point, I think, where you have to explode. Like I think if you just try and deal with it, it doesn't really happen. I feel like you have to have a breaking point with trauma. And I'm not sure if you experienced it when you were going through it, but you just have a moment where it's like absolute rage. You just want to it's like a destruction path. Anything in your way, you're just like, fucking move out the way. And I think it's not until that point, then you realize and you're like, shit, like look at the effects that my mindset and my behavior is having on the people around me, you know, my loved ones, my family, my friends. So you could probably elaborate a little bit on how you felt in that time as well. But that's kind of where I was at.
I mean, at the moment when you were just talking about, then it made me reflect on some of mine, and I remember it just felt like one thing after another was just slap me. Instead of, you know, to now I think I know exactly why it all is happening to me, and I work in the same ways in which you do, in believing that, you know, this is happening because someone needed to stand up and do something about it. Someone needed to work in this field that was going to do something different, and here I am. At the time, I remember just looking up every morning and something would happen, and I just go, "Fucking, what else you got? What else? What else? Throw me, throw me another curveball." I like it, and that was my attitude. I was like, "Poor me, poor me, poor me. Life sucks. Poor me. What else you got? Just have another crack," you know. And it was throwing my hands up in the air and give up and pull me it. But I mean, it's nice to hear that someone turned around immediately and put the positive spin on what they're experiencing. Because for me, it took me years and years to get the kick up the ass that I needed to become a better version of myself and realize everything that was happening to me.
It's just the maturity as well too.
Yeah.
Like I think with you, with me, it happened very young. You know, like we went through these things quite young. And most people out there probably do similar things. Like you haven't experienced life yet. You haven't experienced what life has to throw at you. You don't know how to deal with these situations. The most you might have had to dealt with is fighting with a sibling, or you know, having an argument with your mum, or having an argument with your dad. But at 18, 19, 20, 21, you don't know how to handle that stuff. It's not, and you don't know how to change your mindset to help those around you. So I think now that we're a little bit older, and we've experienced such trauma, I think we know how to flip the switch. We know how to say, all right, well, you know, these negative emotions are coming in, you know, frustration, anger, confusion, they're all coming in, but we know how to channel it now instead of bottling it up and then exploding it onto other people. It's like, channel it. All right, how can I use that to, one, make myself a better person, but two, influence the people around me? Because ultimately that's what we're in the game to do. We're not in the game here to put ourselves on a pedestal and say, Matty Runnalls, Damien Bugeja, look at what we're doing. We're in this game to understand what these emotions are doing to us, because they're happening to other people. And that's the reality. Is if I'm feeling it, if Matty's feeling it, if anyone listening here is feeling it, we're all feeling the same emotions, but everything's about control. Once you learn how to control up here and then what's in here, you understand how to control the outcomes.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, exactly what you said in that. I mean, it's easy for me to stay home tonight and watch TV like the majority of people are doing. But I mean, I just feel there's no meaning and purpose in that for me. And I think when you've got a shitload of lived experiences, and you've got mates like Budgie here, and we've been through Jason on episode 1 and Dennis on episode 2, we've got some amazing ones still to come. I just feel like when you've got these conversations and this much knowledge and this much experience and wealth of trauma and pain, but adversity that people have overcome, let's just share these conversations and arm people with the tools and techniques. Make sure that whether or not they've been through the same level of pain or trauma, it doesn't matter, as long as that they're building that ladder through knowledge and experience and shared learnings, that they can get out of those dark holes the same way I'm able to now. I just don't want people to sit and bathe in it like I did for so long. And I mean, it's nice and refreshing and comforting to hear that someone's turned around very, very quickly, knowing that you went through all those injuries. And I know we don't think of injuries that serious, but I mean, they really do wreak havoc on you, especially when you're trying to achieve your goals of running out on the MCG and making it out of football, as we all do, young males growing up in Australia. Just moving on now, mate, I want to talk to you about 2017. Your world come absolutely crashing down, and in more ways than one. Do you want to talk me through 2017, mate?
Yeah, it's a bit of a whirlwind experience, hey, and I'm more than happy to always share these experiences, because like you just touched on then, I think it's about giving people that safe platform to express how they're feeling. So yeah, 2017 was probably for me the most defying of my 26 years on this earth. It's it still gives me chills when I sort of reflect and look at what happened. So obviously you mentioned Dad got diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and January 25th, 2017, Dad took his last breath. So remember it like it was yesterday. I remember spending, probably 5 days leading up to that, sleeping in the hospital with Dad. And I'd be sitting in a chair like this and, be dozing off each day and just thinking, when's the last breath? When was he going to take his last breath? And when were we going to be at peace? When was he going to be at peace and away from all the pain? And when were we as a family going to have some closure on what had been happening? So Dad was in a coma for 5 days. So the last 5 days he was in the hospital. So we were well aware what was happening. And to be honest, we kind of knew it was going to happen probably for maybe a year or two leading into it. But you just never want to admit it to yourself. You never want to admit that the one person you look up to is going to be the one person that's no longer going to be there to support and give back to you. So January 25th, Dad passed away. And I just remember after that feeling a sense of relief. I remember feeling not even a sense of frustration, anger, or anything like that. Just feeling a sense of relief, like just a bundle of pressure had just fallen off my shoulders, and I didn't know how to process that, like, because I just thought in my head, and as people, when someone passes away, you're not supposed to feel that way. You're supposed to feel massive amounts of frustration, sadness, anger as to why that person, why me, why our family. So I didn't know how to process that, and I had to go away, obviously, deal with the funeral, deal with all that, deal with looking after whatever the challenges were that were going to come, looking after Mum, making sure she was okay. And then had a little bit of time to process and went back and played footy. And I remember in March, so it was about 4 weeks, about 4.5 weeks, 6 weeks later, I did my ACL. So that was the first time I did my ACL. So I was just I was still in grieving process, but I thought for me, footy was just going to give me an outlet. I was going to be around some mates. I was going to be on the footy oval doing a lot of things that I love to do. And I thought, this is going to be my outlet. Footy's going to escape me from reality. It's going to escape me from the trauma. It's going to escape me from the grief. And did my ACL. And I just remember lying on the footy oval crying. And it was during a practice match. And I just remember lying there crying. I knew I did my ACL straight away. I had never done one before, but I just knew that it was happening. And I remember just crying, got stretchered off. My mum came in the room. My brother was there. And we all just embraced and we were all crying together because I didn't care about the injury, but I just knew what was to come. I just knew that we were already fighting a battle. We were already fighting to just keep our head above water and try and accept what had happened. So then obviously did that, had the surgery, and now I'm stuck at home. And when you're down in the dumps, the one place you don't want to be stuck is in a quiet room by yourself, in your own thoughts. And I think, I can speak on behalf of a lot of people. It's probably the one place you don't want to be, when it's just you and you just got to think. So the next couple of months brought about some real frustrating moments, some real points of reflection. I think it was for the first time I started reflecting in my head all the negative parts that happened over the last 5 years with Dad. And I had never relived those points, all the bad surgeries. I used to go back and relive, the point where the doctor told us that Dad had cancer, and I'd constantly played in my head throughout the day. And for me, I had never done that in the past, but I was in a time of vulnerability. Like, I was vulnerable, and I remember just days and weeks sitting on the couch, just not even thinking about my knee, didn't even care about my knee, but just thinking about like all that pain, all that agony. And that's when, I think I mentioned to you for the first time that was points where, and that was the time where I used to walk around the house and, I'd just grab a knife and I'd point it in my chest. And I mentioned that at the Lululemon retreat. And that was the first time I ever expressed that. But that was the exact time that I started doing that, because I just wanted to feel what would it feel like? Because you do your ACL, it's a completely different pain. But I want to feel like, all right, what would it feel like if I actually did this? If I just got to a point in my head where I thought I couldn't be here any longer, what would this feel like? And then I think it was at that point, it was probably about 4 or 5 weeks after my surgery, I sat back and I remember just holding the knife and I just said, Damien, like, what are you doing? Like, my mum was in the next room. I had a little nephew at the time. He was just born. He was like 4 or 5 months old. And I just thought to myself, no, there's got to be more, and you've got to be able to show more. Like you've shown so much, you've shown so much strength to people along this journey. There's got to be more to just ending it like this. And I think that was the realization that, all right, there's got to be something done here. And then obviously played out the rest of that year and got to October. And I think I mentioned to you for the first time just before that I was in a relationship for 7 years, and my girlfriend at the time, who, you know, we had bought a house together very young when we were 21. She spoke at my dad's funeral of that same year, and we both baptized my little nephew. We broke up in October. So, you know, the 3 worst things that probably could have happened at that time in my life, dad passing away, injury with footy, and then obviously going through a breakup like that. But it was until the breakup that I said to myself, you know what, this is what I needed. I think this is what I needed to shift whatever it is I have up here, because I knew I had something different to most people, but I just needed something to unlock that. And I think that the final straw was the relationship. So I walked away from that relationship and I said, this is my chance to make change, but this is my chance to make real change, to connect with real people, to influence on a level that we can change people's perspective on what it means to go through trauma. So, you know, that was 2017. It was an amazing year, incredible year for me, life-changing. Would I go back and change anything? Yep, I'd love to have my dad here, but it's happened, and, you know, I wouldn't change anything for the world now, because you know me, and I'm probably the happiest I've ever been. Regardless of what I've been through, I'm the happiest, most motivated and dedicated I've ever been, having gone through that. But I think you really got to dig deep with things like this. You really got to understand what's happening to you, how it makes you feel, and then channel that. So the one thing for me was I never bottled it up. I never let it just sit inside me. Like I'm very fortunate that I had a great network of people to do that. So I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit. But yeah, that was 2017 for me.
Mate, it's a whirlwind, and I think there's plenty of takeaways from that. I mean, there'd be a lot of people that tune into Mindful Oz, and they'd be sitting right now in an extreme amount of, well, an unbearable amount of emotional pain, maybe trauma, maybe the loss of loved ones. It is makes the majority of the people that are connected to Mindful Oz. So for them to hear for themselves that, I mean, there's 2 examples on the screen right now of people that have used their pain, as hard as that, as easy as it sounds, they've used their pain to create something more meaningful with it, and to use those experiences to come out the other side of that much greater. And I know we've talked about these on the other episodes so far, but it's nice to have another opinion on here as well. We're sitting in a time right now of unknown. We're sitting in the time of fear and panic and anger and frustration, and a lot of those things that you felt during the injury, a lot of those things that you felt with the loss of your father, and there's a lot of those things that you would have felt in the breakup of a relationship after 7 years. A lot of people listening right now that have been going through the same thing for years and years and years, they've probably gathered up a routine and a structure and a job that they work in every single day, and all of a sudden it's taken from them. What we're going through right now, no one has ever experienced. What are some of those things, Budgie? What are some of those things from 2017, all through those injuries and through that relationship breakdown? What are some of those things that you tapped into? What are some of those things for the people at home that worked for you, that helped you navigate and find your way out of that, so you could dance with the pain and create the magic out of it?
I think the biggest thing for me, and the biggest eye-opener, was understanding that you don't have to fight any negative emotion. I think the number one misconstrued thing that we have as people is we cannot let negative emotions come into our body, into our mind. And the sooner I realized that you have to hurt, like you have to allow yourself to feel frustrated, to feel angry. You have to allow yourself to feel vulnerable, because if you don't know what it feels like to feel those low moments, you will not be able to use the tools and create the tools to get out of that. So for me, I was always like, growing up, you feel pain, you're instantly like, oh no, I don't want to feel that. It's a natural response from the brain that we fight pain. So the greatest thing I learned going through all the injuries, and I think because it happens so often, I just learned how to embrace the pain. I learned how to embrace feeling angry, and allowing that. Just it started to make me think. Like when I was angry, I started to think like, why am I always angry? Is it because like I'm frustrated that the world chose my dad? Am I frustrated the world chose me? Am I frustrated because I'm not well researched enough on what the cancer is? Do I not understand, why am I getting all these injuries? Am I not training hard enough? So it started unlocking like a lot of questions within me. So straight away, when I started feeling angry, frustrated, I was always like, all right, I don't know enough about dad's cancer. Let me research. I don't know enough about why I've got an ACL injury. I started training harder. I started training differently. I started training more purposeful. I started unlocking so many questions. But if I didn't allow any of that to come in, you don't unlock any of those questions. And you end up just sitting there and you start questioning just life. And that's, I think, you deal with mental illness a lot more than I do. But I feel like bottling things up only leads to you just feeling ultimately so vulnerable that you don't know how to escape. And the only way you know how to escape is through suicide or like hurting yourself or hurting the people around you. So some of the tools that I use for that was reaching out to people. And it's cliche. People say it all the time. And I had someone say to me the other day that, not everyone wants to reach out. And I was very fortunate at the time that I had a very good network of people around me. So I think now, anytime trauma comes up for me now, I have so many people to lean on. And Maddie's one of those people that, something happened to me last week, wasn't it? And I just called Maddie and I said, Maddie, this has just happened. I've never dealt with this before. I know that you've been through something similar. So finding people around you, and it doesn't have to be family, it doesn't have to be friends, it just has to be someone you feel safe with. It just has to be someone that you feel comfortable enough to open up to. People always say, it's got to be a family member, it's your mum or your dad or your brother or your sister. That's bullshit. It's just someone you feel safe with. And I think that's the greatest avenue that you can have, is surround yourself with people, because when you feel safe, you feel comfortable, you're happy to feel vulnerable. I think we had a conversation and I said to Matt, and I hope you're okay with me sharing, but I said, why didn't you tell people when you were going through what you were going through? And you said, because I didn't want to be judged. I didn't feel safe. I didn't want people to think less of me. And when you're surrounded by such amazing people, those thoughts won't go through your head. And I think that's the amazing part of creating a great network of people. And I think that's what we do now. And I think that's why we're so content with our direction and our purpose, is because we have other people around us that we're all going through the same shit. And you talk about this coronavirus, and people might be feeling the same thing. Why me? And it's not just you. We are all going through the same thing. So when you sit on the couch today, tomorrow, and say, why did I lose my job? Or, why am I sitting at home? Well, you're not the only one sitting at home. Every one of us is fighting the exact same battle. Okay, we've all got the same emotions, but it's the way we're going to deal with this moving forward. It's what we're going to unlock here, and what we're going to unlock in our heart. And I think for me, there's so much you can do. I'm actually excited. I'm excited to be home. I'm excited because it's going to give me a whole new perspective on how I connect with people. I like my thing is human connection. Matt, you're much the same. And I like to catch up with people. I like to see people. For me, I like to grab a hand. I like a hug or a kiss. But this is really going to teach us how to strip away all the materialism. Strip everything away. Strip your houses, strip your cars, strip all your Gucci bags, whatever it is that you've got, strip it all away. What do you have at the moment? And it's not a hell of a lot, but you don't need a hell of a lot to make a lot. And that's the one great thing that I've learned along the way, is I don't need a hell of a lot to create what I have. Give me that much, that little bit there, and I'll create a whole hand for you, and I'll create massive amounts of impact. So learn to be at peace with what you have in front of you and what's within your arm's reach, and you'll be surprised what you can create with what you have. And that's whether it's just in your physical fitness, in your mental health, in your emotional stability, in your self-development. Like, you don't even need to step out of your house to work on all four of those things. No. You can sit on your couch, you can watch Netflix in the background, have your computer going, and you can do 100 burpees in your lounge room. You can get on and do an online program. You can get on the phone and call someone and check in. Like, these are simple things we can do.
They are, and it's a perfect leeway. I mean, I've got a quote right here that I've just seen tonight in the last hour that I just thought's an absolute ripper to explain everything that I've been trying to say. I mean, we've got so many people in panic and fear and anxiety and overwhelm and stress right now. And I know I can see one question, I'll bring it up shortly, but the realization that our bodies shut down, our immune system shuts down the moment that we feel fear, anxiety, panic, stress, and overwhelm. So this virus we're playing into it. We're playing into it because we're not built for it. We're not ready for it. And the reason we're not ready for it is because we've never been in this, we've never gone outside what's normal or whatever we've been taught. We go to work, we do our 9 to 5, we come home, we put our effort into the kids or our partners, normally not ourselves, and then it's just repeat of that cycle. And we've missed out on so many opportunities to build this resilience, so that when these things like this happen, inevitable life situations and challenges that we can't change, we're equipped to deal with them, and we have the strength to know that we can get through them. Or like Damien says, have the ability to sit at home and go, this is an incredible environment to be in right now. Someone who's very, very time poor, my diary's full for 12 months in advance. Damien would be much similar. All of a sudden, my diary's free, and I don't know what that feels like. It's the first time I've ever had this feeling. It's a beautiful feeling, and it's an opportunity now. I think I described yesterday on my page that for me, my mindset leading into being in lockdown is that my house is a prison, and it's prison in a good way. I'm in isolation. I'm in solitary confinement. I get 1 to 2 hours a day in the cafeteria where I'm fed lunch. Unfortunately, I've got to cook it myself, which is
struggle street.
I get 1 to 2 hours where I'm allowed out into the exercise yard, the same way prison is. And I get 1 to 2 hours a day where I have phone time and I'm allowed to talk to my friends, my family, and the people that I love. No different prison. Where we are in lockdown right now is prison. The only difference is I'm not a chance in hell that when we get out of this, I'm going to re-offend with the same shit behavior, pathetic decisions, behavior, the way we treat people, the way I go about things, the clarity and focus for how the things that I want to do and the things that I want to achieve, the way I want to treat people, the better person that I want to be, will be in those 1,440 minutes I spend in my prison here in lockdown right now. And if we can take that same sort of mindset into isolation and see it as an opportunity, and an opportunity we'll never get again, we're all in the same boat. There is no one that's better off for this financially for this situation. We've all lost jobs, we've all lost money, but it'll be interesting to see who actually puts the time into themselves right now to come out of this much better. And this is why I found this quote tonight, and I just think it's brilliant. Perhaps this is what it took to finally put yourself first, a divine intervention with yourself orchestrated by the universe. And I couldn't agree more. How many times we've we just don't put any time into ourselves. We've got 1,440 minutes in a day, and that's 1,440 opportunities to create a better version of ourselves. We put our time into everyone else, and I'm just guilty for that. But we're better to everyone else around us when we put the time back into ourselves. And the time and the clarity and the focus with our decisions, with our relationships are better when we're focused on just the one thing, when we don't have all these other things in the world going on. And right now, most of those things have disappeared. We're going to have the financial stresses. We're going to have the worries that are going on with COVID-19. But if we can just put some time into ourselves and come out of this situation far better than the people that walked in, otherwise we've wasted a golden opportunity with COVID-19 to be a better country, to be a better community, to be better people. So just on the back of that, Budgie, I mean, I just took some notes for when you were talking about your situation, and the things that I wrote down was acceptance. I mean, I didn't find it as quick as you did. But what I gathered here is the acceptance that you had for what you're experiencing. And as you said, there's no blame involved. There was no anger. There was no frustration. It was about what can I do in this situation with the education? Can I go and get better educated about my knees and why I'm doing ACLs? Is there a way in which I've been training my shoulders that means that has left me susceptible to doing my shoulders? I mean, you've gone out there and instead of blaming every single other person for why you're in the situation, you've looked within. That you've had that self-acceptance to know that, hey, I could probably be better in this situation. Instead of bathing in that shit, you've decided to get out of that bathtub of shit that you're sitting in and decide, well, there's only one person that can control this or change this, and that's me. Do you want to talk to a little bit more about that acceptance? I'm a massive believer that acceptance is the solid foundation in which we build the rest of our life. Do you want to talk a little bit more to that acceptance that you had?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, the one thing that I took away was never play the victim. And I think most of us, when we go through these things, we always play the blame game. It's always, who is in my direct vision that I can blame? Who can I take the attention away from? And that's me, and put it onto someone else. And I think for me, I just looked at myself in the mirror and said, I don't want to play the victim anymore, because the victim's not going to allow me to find these beautiful relationships, to meet people like Maddie. Like, the victim's not going to allow me to be more loving, to be more caring, to be more purposeful in my actions. You know, the victim isn't going to allow me to be happier. And I think I sat back, and for so many years I'd played the victim just with everything. I always just tried to find an excuse. And I think when you start finding excuses, you're giving yourself messages to believe. Like, all those excuses, you may not think it, but subconsciously your brain is listening, your mind is listening, your soul, your heart, everything's listening. And you slowly keep telling yourself these messages, you're going to fall into that victim mindset and you're going to play the blame game. So once I went away from that victim mindset and I said, all right, who's fucking all this up? It's me. Like, I'm the one sitting here not doing all the things that I should be doing. You know, I want to know more about training, start researching. You know, I want to know what it feels like to push myself to the limit, start pushing myself to the limit. I want to know what it feels like to really love someone, care more, go out and truly care more for people, be more purposeful in your actions towards people. And I think it's a process though. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. So don't get me wrong. Like, you're not just going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, giddy up. Like, I love people more than what I did yesterday. That's bullshit. It doesn't happen. I'm not going to get up tomorrow and be like, oh, I can all of a sudden just push my body to the limit. I don't even know why I did this today and not yesterday. It doesn't happen. Everything's just a process. And I think for me, you know, the biggest thing is structure, routine, process. You have to follow some form of structure with anything. If it's to do with your physical fitness, your mental stability, your emotional awareness, there's got to be some structure and rhythm. Like, you know, it might be, you might read a book once a day. You might say to yourself, I need to read half an hour each day. For you, Matt, you have cold showers in the morning. Like, this is all part of your structure. This is all part of your routine. But people may laugh at it, but it's building your resilience. It's building this thing in your brain that tells you have to do this one thing every single day. And when you start with one thing, it starts to become 2 things, 3 things, 4 things. And you just keep building on it. It's building blocks. You lay the foundation. You know, it's like building a house, man. You know, you lay the concrete, then you start doing the frame, and then you put the plaster in, you tile everything, you put the roof on. Like, it's the same as your mindset. It's the same as life. Like, you're not just going to wake up and be like, yeah, I'm going to do all these amazing things today. It doesn't happen. Just
brick by brick, and then you look up and before you know it, you've got a brick wall.
100%. But I think our mindset is we want things straight away. Like, that's the way our world has now been taught, because we've got access to so much. So how do we go back and we change that mindset and say we need to work for the things that we have? You know, we can't just fall into this mindset now that we expect things to be given to us. It's like, nah, man, when you work towards something and you give yourself the process, you understand what it's like to be in the trenches. Like, you understand what it's like to be the one battling and fighting and grinding. And when you get kicked on your ass and you're bloody searching through the mud, only you know how to get through that mud. Like, it's you, it's your body, it's your mind. There's no one else. Like, when it all comes down to it, there's no one there to help you in the darkest of moments. Like, you You have to train your mind. You have to train yourself. So the foundations, I think for me, the foundations are so important. Start with one thing, just one thing. Just make it the most simple thing. And I promise you, like people say to me, Damien, I can't run. And my response is, you can't run because you don't run. They're like, I can't.
We create in our head that tells us that we can't. That stops
Yeah,
the bullshit.
exactly. So people say to me, oh, I could never run 290K. And it's like, no, you could never run 290K now.
Yeah.
I could, if you told me 12 months ago, now, Damien, could you run 290K? No way. There is no way. But if I said to you, Maddie, Janice, can you just run 500 meters? Oh, yeah, 500 meters. Okay. Next week, can you run a kilometer? Sure. In a week after that, can you run 2 kilometers? You do that every week, 6 months down the track, you're probably going to run 20, 30, 40, 50. Like, it's our outlook. It's our outlook on what we perceive the end goal to be and how quickly we want to achieve that end goal. Like, your end goal is never tomorrow. Like, you're never going to finish anything tomorrow, because at the end of the day, you have a goal, you build on it, you set a bigger goal, you achieve that goal. It's limitless, it's endless. Perfection is not a thing. We never perfect anything. Like, so just start with the little steps. Like, it's, people always say, it's like the footy terms, like, go back to the basics. Let's do the basics very well. And it's very, very cliche, but I don't believe in like, all these different crazy theories about the way you should do things. Do the basics really well. Like, just start with that. That's your building block. That's your foundation. That's going to allow you to start training your mind to tell you that you can do something. Like, and that's what I take into everything I do. Like, don't get me wrong, I do some batshit crazy things now, but it's been built off developing my mindset over the last 12 months, that it's now put me in a position where if I want to wake up and say I want to do 1,000 chin-ups or 10,000 push-ups or run to Perth, I can do that now. But I've busted my ass for 12 months every single day, when people aren't watching. And that's the thing you got to be prepared to do, is put in the hard yards when no one's watching you. When Instagram is off, when you don't have your phone on you, when you don't have the crowd in front of you, when, Maddie, you're not up on the stage and people are looking at you deliver a speech, you got to be prepared to work in silence. Silence is the darkness. Yep. And that's where you get most of the shit done. That's where the hard work comes from. So there's some of the things that I've done.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, we're seeing a lot, and this will resonate with probably every single person that's going to tune in and watch this video. How many people are you seeing lately that have been saying how bored they are? They're bored because all they've ever known is the weekend, and they live a 9-to-5 mediocrity, bullshit, boring life, and they wait for the weekend for something magical to happen instead of creating that magic themselves. And I mean, it sounds confronting. I'm being firm, but it's because I believe in something better for every single person that's watching this, and I was that person. So, I mean, I think this is a golden opportunity that we've got right now. If there's ever been a better time to sit in your own stillness, in your own calm, and create magic with whatever you've been through by working on yourself and self-discovery and learning about who you are and learning about where you want to go to. And as Dennis writes in the comments there, too many times we set goals like a huge set of stairs in front of us. It's too large, and often we don't start. Let's lower our view and make that first step. And it just speaks volumes to what we've just said about, one brick at a time. And before you know it, you've built some absolute magical building that looks beautiful. And that's how it happens. I mean, I was told back in 2014 that I couldn't run a mental health charity because I was too unwell. Well, yeah, here we are. So, yeah, I mean, people are going to tell you can't do things, but I mean, as we can both attest to, two blokes that have done 300 kilometers by foot, and we don't encourage people to go out there and do stupid shit like that. But what we do encourage people to do is understand how strong we can be when we put our mind to the task. And instead of worrying about proven outcomes and wanting things to happen for us today, know that every single day you're going in there and you're working on yourself. It's a repetition for the brain. The same way you go to the gym and get them repetitions in, it's the same way you're doing the repetitions for our brain. So build those muscles of emotional resilience and flex them. Flex them, not these ones. Flex the muscles up here that show people that you put the time and effort into what really matters. And I mean, it's evident when you have conversations with people, when you read Facebook, when you see the way people behave and act, just how much time they're putting into themselves. And I just really wish more for other people out there, because when you get to that level of knowing that you put the time and effort into your mind, you can really start to decipher the shit from the good much easier, and a lot more clarity, a lot more focus, a lot more creativity, a lot more imagination, and all of a sudden life becomes much more clear. And I can say that knowing I've lived at the bottom with all the shit. And, you know, as I've always said, I'm on my way to the top, and you want to take as many people there with you. But it starts at home when no one's watching, like Damien says, and putting the time and effort into yourself the way you truly deserve. Question time. We've got Meredith. And please, if you've got any questions, send them in. We'd love to hear from you. It saves us from creating a little conversation here. We've got on tangent. We've got Meredith Henry here. Do you think our mental and emotional pain often manifests itself as physical pain and injury?
I think from my perspective, the physical pain and injury only comes as a result of your mental and emotional pain.
Correct.
If you've got no mental and emotional pain, it will never, ever translate to harming yourself, putting yourself through any physical pain. Unless you're stupid like Maddie and I and decide to run stupid amount of kilometers and you just decide to put yourself through physical pain, then yes. But in terms of physical pain and injury, it's always a result of whether it's stress, whether it's, you know, the voices that you have in your head, the things you tell yourself, your self-confidence, anything to do with, you know, what you believe in your mind always will translate into you either harming yourself or something happen injury-wise. Because for me, I think a lot of our issues come from stress. And I'm a firm believer that a lot of cancers, a lot of injuries, and a lot of studies have been done, especially in sport, that a lot of the injuries that happen in sport are as a result of stress and a result of what we play out in our brain. So, Meredith, I definitely think that is the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Just touching on the back of what Budgie just said then. I mean, I work now delivering workshops and programs on construction sites, and a lot of them say, you know, we need to put a lot more time and effort into our physical hazards on work sites. And I ask them all the time to tell me all the hazards that they've been through in the last however long, and a lot of them are caused from emotional stress, emotional pain. They bring their shit to work, and next minute they've cut their hand off with a grinder. It's a lack of being up here and living in here that enables us to have these injuries. It's a lot of stress that we go through before we stress our body out till something breaks. It's a lack of sleep that next minute we have a car crash. It's all these sorts of things. They all begin up here. Our mind and behavioural health is the most important thing that we have. And when this thing's working for you, you can conquer the world. When it's working against you, it'll conquer you. And I'm evidence of that. And it nearly has 4 times. So in regards to that question, absolutely. When we look after our mental and emotional pain, watch how many physical injuries and pain and colds and immune system breakdowns that we don't have. We eradicate them. And cold exposure, I mean, we brought up cold baths before, and I'm a big cold exposure advocate and breathwork advocate, and there's a lot of science now, a lot of science by the world's leading evidence and researchers to prove that when we put our time into cold exposure and our breath and exposing ourselves to life stresses and putting ourselves through that we can get through other stresses in life and we don't end up with physical pain and injury, and the immune system stays strong. It's like right now, we're anxiety, it's all in the mind, yet we're susceptible now to disease because we open our immune systems start to shut down through panic and fear and worry. So yes, absolutely, Meredith, they go hand in hand, and that's why we think it's massive that we start putting them bricks in place every single day to make sure that we're ready for any situation, challenge, or situation that we get put through. Budgie, back to you, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we've got one more question while we're on it. Let's bring up the questions. We've got Dennis. Budge, you spoke about surrounding yourself with good people. What are some of your mentors? And on the flip side, who do you mentor? Good question.
I like that. First of all, how are you, Dennis? I hope you're well, buddy. Send you a lot of love and care. You're an absolute star. So thank you for being amazing. In regards to your question, for me, and I go back to, I said in when I did my dad's eulogy, I don't believe in superheroes. I don't look up to I don't look up to sports athletes. I don't look up to people we see in the media and things like that. I've never done that. For me, who I look up to is the one guy I'm probably talking to right now, Matty. I look up to a lot of my mates. I like to think that we are all bringing up each other up together. And I like to be mentored and influenced by the people that I'm in constant contact with, because for me, that's real. For me, that's genuine. I don't want to be mentored by, people that I can't have a real conversation with, that I can't get on the phone and just call and text. So for me, I call Matty because I see him as a mentor. I call him because I trust his advice. I trust his genuine opinion on things. So that's why I turn to him. Some of my other best mates, it's a similar thing. For me, I only trust certain people's opinions and advice. I think you can go overboard too, and you can put your trust in too many people, and you can try and source too much influence from everyone. But I think you got to find, well, who are the people that are going to directly affect you and what you want to do? Because you can turn to so many sources of motivation. Although I don't believe in motivation as a thing, I think it's crap. I don't think it exists. There's so many things, especially with social media and things like that. We've got access to so many points of reference and experiences. But what resonates with me is what Matty loves to call lived experience. I want to associate myself with people that have been through the same shit that I've been through. Because when I say to Matty, I'm feeling X, Y, Z emotion, he can say, Budge, I've felt the exact same stuff. And you know what that does to me? It makes me feel comfortable, makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like I want to open up. I want to share the way I'm feeling. Like obviously it's good, people will look up to footy stars, and Dennis, you would have had this growing, like when you were playing footy, like a lot of kids would have come up to you and said the same thing. And it's always amazing to have that aspiration. But you'd be able to, talk about your experience as a footballer. Who are the people that you could have directed your attention to while you're playing footy and helped in that situation? And that's how I always think. And going back to who do I mentor? Anyone who wants to talk to me, anyone who wants to be in direct contact with me, who wants to sit and either listen to me or allow me to listen to their story. Like, I feel like we're in a day and age where we can mentor so many people, but I want to mentor the people who want to do something with it. I don't want to mentor let me rephrase that. I shouldn't say it that way. But what we want to achieve, and Matty, I can speak on behalf of Matty too, is what we want to achieve is when we pass on some bit of knowledge, when we pass on some bit of inspiration, we want people to grasp that, understand it, process it, see how it fits in with what they're doing, and then go and create their own change. Don't sit there and say, I want to do what Matty does. I want to get up and I want to talk in front of thousands of people. I want to create programs for people in remote areas. That's Matty's dream. Don't go out and say, I want to run 290 Ks for Peter McCallum Cancer Foundation and run to Yarra. That's my dream. Don't say you want to go play AFL for Carlton and be the best blonde-headed small forward this generation has seen. That's Dennis's dream. Find what you want to achieve. And that's, I think, for me and Matty, our mentoring philosophies are around how do we get people to realize their full potential. So as a mentor, and I'd like to think that I have that influence on people now, and Matty as a mentor, that's how we want to mentor people. Anyone who is willing to create some form of change within themselves, and we all can do it. We all have the ability to create change. It's just finding those avenues for people to unlock that potential within their brains. And I think I'll wrap up that question with that.
I think you touched on a really good point, and everyone knows that I'm a massive lived experience that fan and advocate. I mean, I think it's a part that we've missed in this country for a long, long time. And there's a difference between lived experience advocates, good and great. There's a big gap there. But one thing I took away from the Ben Cousins doco the other night, one thing that I wrote down when I was watching that, and a lot of people think it's crap that they, wasted 60 minutes of their time and all the rest, and that's another argument. If you didn't take something out of that 60 minutes, you weren't watching hard enough or with the love glasses on. But one of the lessons that I learned, or not lessons that I learned, it just reaffirmed what I have always been saying. Ben Cousins reached out to home and away Lynn McGranger, he reached out to someone that he's seen on a soapy on TV. There was a make believe character, because in her character, she had addiction and she'd been through minor behavioural health challenges and she was overcoming those. Ben Cousins reached out to her. Why do we think that is? Why do we think that he found comfort in someone that showed that they'd been through it? I mean, this is not something that just Ben Cousins does. This is something that a lot of people do. And the faster that this country works out that the comfort that lived experience people bring a lot of people's emotional distress, the quicker we can get people the access and help and support when we put enough attention into those people that have lived it, been in it, and still continue to live it, but come out the other side. You can help people get so much support and get people to the access to the right areas and pathways to get them the treatment that they need. And I just think it's one area that we're really lacking, the ability to acknowledge the people that are down there getting their hands dirty, working amongst this field, working amongst any field, sharing their journeys of hope, healing and recovery, because that's what people relate to. And this is why I have people on with lived experiences.
Yeah, and it's removing that level of rebuttal. Like, I think for people out there, like when I was going through all my trauma, sometimes you don't even want that other person to say anything. Like, all you want is for that other person sometimes to open their ears and just know that they're understanding what you're saying. So even if you've never had lived experience, like I always say to people, like, you don't have to have lived experience to understand and to listen. Like, people who are going through traumatic experiences may reach out to you. Like they may not always reach out to other people with lived experience. You know, they may reach out to you, who is a close friend or a close family. Just know that you don't have to rebuttal. You don't have to say something back and say, all right, Johnny, you should be doing this, and that. That's not what people going through trauma always want. They don't want someone to tell them what to do. They want someone there just to listen and comfort and show that you're just understanding. So if you're out there and you come across someone who may be going through that trauma, just open your ears. That's it. You don't need to do anything else. And the power in opening those ears will do wonders for the person actually going through that trauma.
We're big on making people smile here at Mindful Oz. Budgie, love you, Dixie. One question is, Damien single?
I'm always single. Of course I'm single.
So Holly Alexander, everyone knows Holly Alexander from hearing my story backwards and forwards for the last 6 years. Holly is the amazing, incredible girl that took me off the street back in 2016.
Holly, coffee on me, because I want to say thank you for what you've done for Maddie. So next time you're around, coffee on me, because
righto, it's not a dating show, mate.
Just to say thank you, because you've brought this beautiful human into all of our lives. So
we
amazing
love
what you've done.
People smile, and she makes me smile. And here's another one for you, Budge, for another laugh. Does Budgie want to line up next to you in the midfield when Footy's back?
Oh, I don't know if Maddie's ready for that, man, because once I cross that white line, there's no good thing that happens. But you know what? I'd love to line up next to him on the same team.
We might have to. We don't have enough tape for your shoulders, but I'm sure we can. Yeah.
Love that.
Budge. All right. So one thing I want to touch on, we talk about relationships. One of the relationships that I really admire that you have is the one with your mother.
Hey,
it's a beautiful relationship. I want to know, and I suppose everyone out there that's listening, I mean, a lot of the questions and queries I get through my inbox a lot of the time is from parents wondering how they can connect better with their sons or daughters, or just explain to us, how does that relationship work for you? What do you need to see, hear and feel? And what does that awesome, amazing mother of yours provide you with, apart from cooked meals every night?
I can tell you what I provide her with, and it's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. She tells me on a daily basis that, Damien, you're effing stressing me out. And I love that. I absolutely love that. But me and Mum, we're, like I said to you before, we have a super tight, close relationship, and you know that firsthand. You've seen my mum, you met my mum, you danced with my mum at the gala last week. So she's amazing. She's beautiful. She's strong. She has had to deal with something that a lot of people wouldn't have ever had to have dealt with. 30 years of marriage, lost a husband. So I think growing up me and mum always, like, we butted heads a lot. So I've got a brother. I'm one of two. My brother's a bit older, very different from me. And I think I was more the troublesome child. I was, the one getting in trouble at school and causing havoc and, always bringing maybe a different girl home or things like that in the early days. And mum used to absolutely hate it. So I think one thing that's changed now is a level of understanding of what my role is in the family and what mum's role is in the family. I think we've gone away from her being that role model and her being that one person that gives the advice to the child. I think as kids and as growing up, part of what I always did was I always challenged the boundaries. Like I'd always test the relationship just a little bit. I'd always say, all right, if I did this, I wonder how much trouble I'd actually get in. So I'd do it. Like I'd do it. Whatever it was, I'd break something, I'd hit something, I'd wag school, I'd whatever it was, because I wanted to see how far I could push. And I think after Dad passed away, it was like almost a realization that we don't have these roles of mother, son, you direct me and you guide me into that direction. It's almost like we've just become a team. We've become a partnership. If you need my support, I'm here. Mum, if you need anything, I'm here. And mum's vice versa. Damien, do you need anything? Do you need emotional support? Do you need financial support? Whatever it is. And I think we're both now on that level that we understand each other a lot better now, having gone through the passing of Dad, because we spent a lot of time in those dark places together. We spent a lot of time, just feeling down in the dumps. And I think for me, it was understanding, how does she feel as a wife? And I think she spent a lot of time thinking, all right, well, how does he feel as a son? So we almost reversed the roles. We almost put ourselves in the opposite situation. And, I think I learned a lot from that. I think I learned a lot about what it meant to love someone, what it meant to care about someone, what it meant to be in that true connection with someone. And, the first person you always love is your mum. So I'm a big advocate that she's always going to be a massive part of my life. But this relationship should be so strong. It should be such a bond because we're going to have that connection forever. So I think for both of us now, we've really worked on how we really pushing each other, how we making each other better people. Because in the past, it was almost like she'd just tell me off. I would crack the shits and I'd go to my room, and that's not the relationship you want to create. You almost want to be best mates. You almost want to be, how I call Maddie and say, Maddie, this has happened to me today. I do the same with my mum. I come home and I can sit down and I can be like, Mum, this has happened. I'm feeling this way, and we can actually talk about things. So I think, if there's any parents out there, you almost have to allow your kids to mess up. Like, I almost hoped that I test the boundary so much that I'm like, allow me to just fuck up. Like, allow me to do something the wrong way, because I think there was times where I used to get sheltered a lot. I always had a roof over my head. I always had food on the table. I never learned to really fight for anything until Dad got sick. So that was part of it. Part of that resilience building mindset was learning to fight for something, like allowing me to. And now, like, when I do stupid, ridiculous physical challenges, I think Mum's just going to let him do his thing, because she knows now I'm mentally equipped to be able to do that. Like, I'm mentally able to process what's happening in my brain and say, all right, well, what are the ramifications? Is there any risk to my life? Is there any risk to the people around me? Like, I'm at a point where I can get around that. But there's that understanding now that Mum and I have, and I love it a bit. I'll continue to challenge her. I'll continue to piss her off. I'll continue to, make her laugh, make her cry, make her whatever it is, because that's, I think, the nature of building good relationships is you have to push each other, and you have to push each other to the boundaries. Like, I think even as mates, like, if you're not testing that relationship, if you're not pushing each other with your views, with your opinions, if you're not saying something to your mate that makes him think, fuck, Damien's an arsehole for saying that, but I love him. Like, I love him for being honest and telling me what he thinks. Like, I feel like all my mates that I've got that are closest to me, we've had some form of realization. We've had some form of, like, you know, Damien, you know, why did you do that? Or Damien, you know, you've been acting funny the last week. Like, I feel like you almost have to call each other out. You have to be honest with each other. And I think that's what I love. And I love about building a relationship with my mum is we can do that and we can honestly do that. So, yeah, we're almost like best mates now, you know, like we did that challenge. I did a challenge yesterday and the whole live feed was just mum abusing the shit out of me for what I'm doing. But we had so much fun. We were laughing, we'll cry. Like, it was amazing. So, yeah, she's a special human.
Let's talk more to that. Let's, you know, you spoke about your dad being sick and your dad passing, and we can sit and bathe in the shit that is, or we can go off and create magic like Budgie does. Let's talk about the magic that was created from losing your father and the relationships that you have with everyone and what you've created, mate, in Run for Joey.
Yeah, something whirlwind. I probably haven't even reflected in a way yet, and I don't know when that time's going to be. But the Run for Joey was just created because we spent so much time in hospital. Like, I can't explain. Over 5 years, we probably spent 2.5 years total just in and out of hospital. And one thing I said to myself, I said, you know, while Dad was sick, once this is over, I've got to do something. I've got to create change. I've got to influence people to come out of trauma with a positive light. And I wanted to do that through the Peter MacCallum Cancer Foundation, because what we went through with doctors, nurses, surgeons, all the rest, it's absolutely amazing. And I know sometimes the medical system gets knocked a lot for what they do, but when you spend so much time in there, you'll start to understand exactly what they do and the level of care they provide. So Dad passed away. We decided as a family that our annual trip to Yarrawonga, which has been a holiday destination for our family since I was probably 5 years old, we went there 2018. We said, all right, we're going to go for Dad's birthday. We're going to go celebrate his life. 30, 40 of us, all the cousins, aunties, uncles. And I always talk about a light bulb moment, because that's generally where magic happens. You get like a flash and you're like, it's like a realization. I was sitting in the car, driving along the Hume Highway, heading down to Yarrawonga. I was driving, Mum was in the car. And I just had this, I don't know, I had this like chill come over me, and I was like, this is it. I think I found it. And I remember just like turning, I looked to Mum, and she's like, keep your eyes on the road. I said, Mum, I think I got it. And she's like, what's that, stupid? She always says things like that. She's like, what's that, stupid? I said, I'm going to run to Yarrawonga. She's like, get stuffed. And she said something else, but my mum swears a lot. So she said, get effed. And I said, I'm serious. I'm gonna run to Yarra. I'm gonna raise some money. I don't know how it's gonna look, but this is the goal. This is the achievement. I remember I got to Yarrawonga and I was like, I never think about anything too long. Like, for me, thinking just talks me out of things. So if I think it straight away, I've got to act on it. So I remember I got to Yarrawonga and I went live on Instagram, and I just said, I'm running to Yarrawonga. I'm letting everyone know that I'm going to run to Yarrawonga. I'm putting it out there now because I can't back out. At this stage, I hadn't even looked at how many kilometers it was. I was just like, I'm just put it out there, and it has to happen now. So then I got onto Google Maps, punched it in. It said 250 something kilometers. I was like, perfect. I was like, I can't do that in one day. I'll do that over, let's say, 6 days, a marathon a day. Achievable. I thought it was achievable. And I had already started unlocking these things in my mind. I'd start doing some other little challenges. But I was like, nah, this is going to change my life, but it's going to change the way I look at life as a whole, the way I look at my relationships, the way I look at my self-development, the way I look at, you know, my physical training, the way I look at everything that makes me who I am. And I was like, I need this for my life, because I was in just a negative mindset of, I wanted to do something. I just knew I didn't want to keep going to work. I didn't want to just keep going 9 to 5. So then I started planning, started chipping away at it. How's it going to look logistically, funding? What are we going to do? How are we going to fundraise? What's the idea? What's the route look like? Then it just started generating some momentum. People started getting interested, asking if they could run. You know, can people jump on board? Can they help fundraise? What community events can we do? So I went from just being, I'm just going to run or raise a little bit of money. I'm like, you know what? I think anything great, you got to set a big goal. So I set the goal of, I said $100,000. I was like, I don't even know why I said 100, but 100 sounded like a good number. Let's raise $100,000. And then, yeah, I think we set the goal. We got to work. We started showing people the training, the work we were putting in, how it was all going to look. And then we just started building community. Like, you know, we did one event led into another event, and it got people talking. And I think when I look back now, the biggest achievement was not the run. The biggest achievement wasn't running 290K over 6 days and all those stats that you've pulled out before with the elevation, things like that. Like, that wasn't the achievement. The achievement was the little conversations we had, you know, the little conversations of, you know, Damien, I started running and it made me feel like this. And it's like, then I started looking back and I was like, fuck, this is actually incredible. Like, I can do something quite special for other people. And like this video that's playing in the corner here is, I look back on it and like you can just see people running with us every day. And that was just the most amazing part, that there were people that had never ran before that decided they were going to run, even if it was 10K. Some people ran 30K, 42K. I think 2 people ran 62K in one day. Like, one guy ran the whole distance with me. It was just so beautiful. Like, I can't explain like how much it warmed my heart just to have people next to me, having those conversations. Like, the conversations on the run were just amazing. Like, you know, that just shows like the relationship with mum and the emotion behind it all. Like, I felt like people felt like they had ran with me, even if they didn't. Like, they came on that emotional journey, and that's everything that I wanted to achieve. Was I wanted to take people on an emotional roller coaster, because when you take people on an emotional roller coaster, they may do 100 somersaults and backflips through emotion, but they get back up on their feet and they're like, shit, that was amazing. Let's do it again. And that's, everything we tried to achieve with the run. So, yeah, we ran 290K 6 days and we just ticked over 60 grand. So it's incredible.
There's one thing that we both have in common, and that's doing these stupid, ridiculous ones. I've been able to complete 2 of them now, and I've said I'll never do another one, but that might change.
It's going to change, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm probably due, to be honest. I'll probably, to put my body through something and get a bit more discipline back. But I was reading one of your posts, and you talked about the euphoria that you feel when you go on one of these runs. Now, I can talk to euphoria because I experienced it through bipolar disorder, but I also experienced it on my run. My run was where I knew and had confirmation that what I believed for many years was true, and that I had bipolar disorder. Do you want to talk to me about the euphoric feeling of what that run felt like?
Very hard to explain. It's anyone who finds that feeling of euphoria, it's a super hard feeling. I always say to people, there's no drug in the world that you can take. There's nothing in the world that you could grasp onto to hit those points of euphoria. So the best way I can explain it is picture almost just falling asleep while you're running, and your mind goes to another reality where you're watching yourself run, but you're not feeling yourself run. So I don't know if you can just envision that. So picture you're running, right? You're running and you just get into these deep states of thinking. It's almost like you're meditating while you're running. And this is how I felt. And it's like my eyes are closed. My mind is up here and I'm watching myself run, but I can't feel my body. Like, I can't feel my legs hurting. I can't feel my breathing, but I'm actually still running. And then you almost wake up and you're like, shit, I just ran 10 kilometers. I just ran 15 kilometers. And that would happen every day. There'll be points on the run where 5 kilometers, I'd just be like, I don't even remember running that 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. Like, it's a crazy experience. It's you just don't think it's possible. You don't think that you can get to that level, but you almost have to get yourself to a point where you're in so much physical pain and mental struggle that your mind just takes you there. So you'll never get there if you're just going for a walk. If you just slowly just pushing the envelope a little bit, you got to get to a point where you think you're going to die. And that's the point I was at. And that's the point you feel that euphoric moment.
Yeah, you don't realize how strong you can be until being strong is the only option you've got left.
Dude, like, I mean, I always said, if I didn't feel destroyed during this run, I didn't do it with enough purpose, with enough passion, with enough drive and strength. But it's quite amazing. Like, it's amazing to know that you can push yourself that far, because I always said you got to feel comfortable with the uncomfortable, and that's not just physically running or anything. You know, even now, like, this is uncomfortable for everyone. Get comfortable. Like, this situation is so uncomfortable for everyone. Get comfortable with your surroundings. Get comfortable with what you're doing. So the more you can understand how comfortable you can be when you are feeling uncomfortable, our bodies are built to get absolutely hammered, get absolutely thrashed. Like, from a physiological point of view, from a physical makeup, like from the caveman days, our bodies are actually built to just take a battering. What stops us is up here. Your body only stops when your mind tells you to stop. Like, you think about it, even if you get an injury, you can still run. Like, it's just your mind is telling you that something's wrong, you have to stop. So the more you can switch off this, to stop sending those messages to your muscles to say, I'm fatigued, I'm built up with lactic acid, it's amazing. Like, I just got to a point on day 3, day 4, where I was like, my body was numb. Like, I was just running on numb legs. Like, I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel nothing. And in my mind, I'm just like, let's go. Like, you can see this part of the run here was the last day. I couldn't even step on my toes, like the blisters and the pain through my ankles. But I was just like, who cares? It's pain. Like, it hurts. Big shit. Like, my dad went through 5 years of waking up every single day feeling like absolute ass, and knowing he was going to die. Like, I wasn't dying in this run. I was never going to die. Like, I was sore. I was tired. I was lethargic. And I kept telling myself, big shit, Budge. Like, who gives a shit? Like, your dad faced, like, death. He feared death for 5 years. Try and feel that, and then see if you're going to whinge and complain and bitch about what your scenario brings you here. So that's the mindset I took.
It's interesting. It takes me a little bit back to mine, and I guess, I mean, I always say that some of the biggest learnings I've ever got were them moments and them hours that I spent just pounding the concrete, step after step, by myself in my own head, from New to Byron, from around the Bay Area. Like, I don't encourage people to go do these things, but there is that much.
I do. I do.
I don't. Yeah. I need you to go away and work on your emotional well-being before you go and put your run on. That's for sure. So, what you learn in those situations when it's only you and the concrete, when all you've got is just you. And as you said, the mind's limitless if we train it to be. And you'll be so shocked at what you can achieve when you put the time and effort into your brain, the same way we do to our body in the gyms, or the same way we do in our work to earn money. So Budgie, I just want to run you through right now. I'll just hide that sucker and go back to me and you. No more questions over the side. So I want to talk to you about these quick questions and answer them at will, however you like. And if anyone's got any questions for Budge, please send them through. Any more would be great. Number one, who's the best teacher you've ever had in your life?
Definitely my dad, man. Like, it's cliche. But if I can explain to people what he provided me from a knowledge perspective, he was the one who taught me how to deal with adversity. He was the one who taught me how to build resilience. And
30, 40 of us, all the cousins.
And yeah, I think for me, like I said before, I don't look to people in external sources. I look to my network, and for me, Dad, he was the one person that was my role model. Like, he was the one person I looked up to. He's the one person I cherished. He's the one person I loved unconditionally. Like, every time he said something, it's like I just believed him. He could have told me anything. I just believed him. I trusted him. So for me, 100% Dad.
Dad, I love that. What brings you the most joy?
Smiling, man. Absolutely. Just seriously, like, when it's for me, the most joy has to come through the little things, like just dealing with the little things in life. Like I think for me, when I see someone smile, it's like they're either super, super happy or they're trying to get their way out of being in an unhappy situation, because that's the only time you're putting on a smile. Is like, you can't fake smiling. You can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can see through someone's fake smile. Like, you literally, and I'm just going to walk around because I've got to get my charger, but you literally, you have to believe that you're smiling to actually put out like that energy to people. You know what I mean? So for me, that's the most joy. So
I feel like that has been mentioned across all three of our episodes, the ability to do something as small as a smile. I mean, I can put a fake smile on my face right now, but it takes over. The physiology of what a smile does to us creates happiness, and I feel joy straight away as soon as I smile. If it was a stupid big pearly white grin that had,
and you got the cheesiest smile that I've ever seen. I love it.
I mean, what a tool that we've got, and we possess unlimited amounts of that shit. So why don't we just do it? Why aren't we smiling more? We've had 3 guests on, and all 3 guests have said that smiles is what brings them joy. Yet we have people that walk around with that 9 to 5 rest and bitch face, pretending like the world that we live in is the worst thing ever.
It's the most beautiful thing you've ever got access to.
So many things to be grateful for. As I said the other night, either on here or on another one, it's this country in the world. We're fortunate enough to be so connected where we can have these conversations. And if you're watching this right now, you have the ability to have a phone in your hand, and you have the ability to be on the internet. And I think there's 3 or 4 things straight away. A lot of other countries and people don't have the luxuries of. So bring out those smiles and keep smiling. There's always something to be smiling for. So,
but smile for the little things, man. Like, one point I want to make is, don't wait until you have a monumental moment to smile. Like, you wake up in the morning, fucking, even if you're tired, just get up and smile. Like, just you have so much to be grateful for. Don't think you have to wait till you have a kid, you get married, you. Like, mate, get up. If you see a text from your best mate, smile, because once you smile for the little things, it just makes the process so much more enjoyable, and you become so much more grateful for just the little moments that you have throughout your day. And then you'll just continue to smile more, because you'll just find more little things to smile at. Like right now, I'm looking at my mum. I think she's watching this. She's watching this podcast, but I've just smiled at her, and she's just, look at her. She's just a beautiful human. You know what I mean? But like, they're the little things, man, that you have to smile at. It makes life beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, Meredith's just written in there, especially when we dodge them to keep that 1.5 distance. What a better way to communicate to people than to let them know that you care by giving them a big pearly white grin. So I know it's one of my favorites as well. Next question. Where's your place of wellness? What does it look like?
For me, I know a lot of people get wellness out of stillness. And I know you do a lot of meditation, and you find a lot of comfort and peace in being still. For me, I can't be still, and it's not because of any purpose or any reason. I find my stillness through running, and that's why I love running so much. My stillness, my place of meditation, my place of thinking comes when I'm focused on just running. It's just me, it's the pavement. I don't run with anyone, but I can sit there. I can focus on my breathing during my running. I can focus on my technique. I can soften my eye gaze during my running, and I can get into those places of euphoria. So, I think now, like even in the lead up to the run, I was starting to tap into those euphoric moments, and that comes through meditating while running, focusing on your breathing, your breath. Like you talk about breath and breathing a lot. I do that through my running. So for me, that place of wellness comes through when I'm running, because that's when even my ideas are generated for the run for Joey. I think about how I should connect with people. Like everything that I do and everything that my brainstorming it comes in my running. And I don't know why, I can't explain how. It's just something that I've unlocked within me, and that's what works for me. And obviously for you, it's stillness, it's meditation, it's hot and colds and things like that.
It's not. I mean, I do a lot of work with stillness, but in saying that's very, very difficult for me, and I hate being still. I practice it because I know the benefits of it, but I definitely don't. I don't love it. I don't love it. It's hard. It's very difficult for me. This thing up here goes a million miles an hour. It still is very difficult, but I know I don't avoid it because I hate it. I don't avoid it. I don't like doing it. I do it because I'm like, I know that it's going to make a better mat tomorrow. That's what I try and do with myself every single day. So hopefully one day I enjoy sitting and being still. I'll continue to practice it, knowing that even if I don't, my body needs it, my head needs it, because this kid.
But you may never love being still, and I think that's okay though. Like I think, like people who go out and preach that you should meditate or you should run. Like I never preach you should run, you should meditate, you should. Whatever works for you, like that's it. If running doesn't work for you, find some other avenue of cardio. Like go do a HIIT workout, go do some form of cardio that doesn't involve running. Go swimming, go whatever it is. Like if your wellness comes through stillness, do meditation. That's fine. But just know you don't have to do. There's so many other things and there's so many other elements.
There is
research. Find what works for you. I think that's one thing for me that works for me.
That's right.
Did we lose you, Maddie? I think I lost you. Has that gone off on yours?
Have I lost you? We're back.
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
Oops. I don't know what happened.
Just needed a moment. That was all.
Yeah, maybe they're just sick of us. Yes, I agree. But in saying that, I encourage every single person, just because you might meet stillness or meditation and not like it, doesn't mean you stop doing it. Again, if I didn't, me and Budgie would have stopped after the first 10 kilometers if we always went with that mindset. It's about taking your mind and your body to where it's never been. You build a healthy relationship with everything in your life that causes you stress or discomfort. Life becomes simple. It will never be easy, as we've seen. But it can be simple if you put the work into your mind the same way would you do anything else.
Yeah,
let's
give everything a crack as well.
Let's fly through these ones, Budge.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Favorite podcast or book?
Favorite podcast? Was a big fan of Tim Ferriss.
Massive fantastic.
Like I think everyone jumps to like Joe Rogan because he's funny, he's extroverted and things like that. But if you're out there and you've never listened to Tim Ferriss, like he asks some amazing questions. Like he really knows how to pinpoint the conversation to help the listeners. So Tim Ferriss is an amazing one. Book-wise, I'm massive on physical challenges. So for me, David Goggins, his last one was called Can't Hurt Me. Bloke's a beast, absolute animal.
Beast.
Yeah, he's not for everyone. He's very hardcore. He's very out there, but yeah, definitely worth a read.
Yeah, it's funny because it's the same people that keep coming up on every episode. So, definitely look into the David Goggins, Tim Ferriss, and people like that. Budgie, what's your favorite quote? You live by a quote? You got a mantra?
It's probably my own. I've got two quotes. Smile every day is one that I just live by because it's something simple. When I'm not smiling, I tell myself to smile and I'll smile. Makes me happier, makes me a better person. And I said it before, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Take that into any part of life because change is inevitable. It's going to happen. We're living proof of it right now. But on an hourly basis, daily basis, weekly basis, yearly basis, shit's going to change. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great opportunity that we're in right now, as we've said. Any superpower? What would it be and why?
Jeez, superpower. I think it would. I used to always think I wanted to be invincible. Like I'd want to just sometimes walk through places and not be seen, and I could just. But I think I do everything for convenience. So I know this it's going to probably contradict a lot of what. But sometimes I'll pay for things for convenience. So, like for example, if I could like time travel and be like, oh, man, like I can't be bothered driving home. I wish I could like hit a button and just put me back to my house, or like I think time, like that'll be perfect. Like if I could erase some of the inconveniences in my life, I just erase them. Like a bit like the Click movie. You seen the Click movie? Where you can just like rewind things and pause things. Because I'd like to watch things back too. Like I'd love to like now go back on my run, say rewind and sit here and watch my whole run, but exactly the way I felt on that run. Like I reckon that would just be amazing. Like, you know, like the first time you and I met, Matt, I'd love to rewind and go back to that night where we had multiple wines and just live that experience again.
And do yoga after a few wines. Bad idea.
Bad idea. Yeah.
All right, 3 people. Anyone in the world, have a dinner with them. Who would it be?
Dwayne Johnson,
The Rock.
Kevin Hart,
Funny man.
and Donald Trump.
Trump. Contradicting, but I love it. What an
Trump,
interesting man.
Because I think, it'll just be, it'll be cool because that guy is an ultimate entrepreneur, huge influencer, leader, batshit crazy. You'd love to just dig into his mind, man, and just see the way he thinks, because that's one person I'd love to just know what's going through your brain, dude. Like that for me. Like, all right, everyone hates him, but it's like, what's going on in here? Like, I'd love to know that. I'd love to just sit down and just have a chat with him.
Yeah, and mate, I agree. I would be all about that. I think we shouldn't always listen to Australian media. I've spent a lot of time in America, and it's not everything that Australia makes him out to be. So
100%.
Anyway, next time, not to talk political. That's it to everyone, but at least he's honest. Have we ever seen that in? We don't see that very often in politics. That's for sure. One bit of advice for listeners, Budge. What do you got to give them to take away?
Be willing to listen. I think we said it before, but we don't talk about this enough. Be willing to listen. Be willing to open your ears, and I think genuine care comes from listening. Like I said, we've been given a platform now with social media where we're almost like spokesperson. Like we have this platform to always express opinions, express the way we're feeling, express what we're thinking. Like, I think we just need to take a step back, and this is the ultimate opportunity to be able to step back. Like, we have no choice right now than the next 2, 3, 6 months, whatever it is, to sit back and listen to people. I think this is how we're going to change the world. This is how we're going to allow people to feel more vulnerable. Is just sit back. My messages are never. I don't complicate any of my messages. I don't like to push too many messages. I like to keep them simple. I like to keep them brief and very, very basic. Open up your ears, allow people to feel safe within your environment. So anytime you come into contact with someone, think, how can I make that person feel comfortable talking to me? What can I bring out in the conversation? It might just be a little cue. It might not even be a word. It just might be your embrace, your hug, your smile, the way you look at them, the way you're understanding them, the way you face them. Start to really focus on the way we can communicate with people without verbally communicating. And I just think there's so much power. And the more I do that with like my friends, with you, Matt, we probably learned a lot of that when we sat next to each other at the huddle, and it was just we were forced to listen. Like, we were forced to just hear each other's stories and look where it's brought us. Look at the relationships that it's created. So I don't know. It's just a message that I've always really wanted to push further, is just about listening.
Love that. And for the listeners, Budge, where would they find you? Where do they find what you're up to with Run for Joey?
Well, if you come to Craigieburn, I'll meet you for a coffee. But
Holly's still watching. She will find you.
She would definitely. No, just you can get me on Instagram. So obviously Damien.Bugeja on Instagram and on Facebook at Run for Joey. It's just there. You can get me on Instagram, runforjoey.com.au, to see what we're doing with the run moving forward on the website. But yeah, just for anyone out there, like, I always say, like, when we do podcasts and things, they always put social media and things like that. And it's like, yeah, come follow me. Don't come follow me. Come communicate with me. Come talk to me. Don't just follow me and watch my journey from afar. Like, interact with me. Talk to me. Tell me about your journey. I want to listen. Like, I don't want to ever be one of those mentors, those people of influence that just gets people on board for just having like fan groups. If you're going to come follow the Run for Joey, send me a message. You're going to come follow Damien Bugeja, me as the person. Come and get to know me as a person. I want to get to know you. I want to know who you are as a person, what you're struggling with, what you're achieving. That's how we create love. That's how we create care.
Love it, and love you, mate. Big time. I'm going to read one thing out to finish on this note. And me and Budge were talking about this prior to going live. We've just come across this tonight. We think it's perfect for the situation and time we're in right now, knowing that we are stuck at home, knowing that we are stuck with limited resources and things that we're used to, but knowing exactly what me and Budge have talked about tonight and through the other episodes is that we have everything that we need right now in our homes if we tap into what exists, and that's the strength that we can be to ourselves. So if you are not the person you want to be for the rest of your life, you must get to work right now. The truth is that it becomes easier and easier to fall in passivity, to allow our lives to be selected for us out of ease and what's familiar. The truth is that the longer we stay as we are, the more deeply we are enforced for it. The stronger the neuro pathways become as we revisit the same thoughts and feelings over and over again. The truth is that you will get into the end of your life exactly as you are right now if you do not choose growth. Because growth, it isn't inevitable, it's optional. You have to decide what you want to get better, and then you have to choose to live that life every single day. Damien, Budgie, you are a bloke that mimics exactly what that quote's all about. You grow and have an unbelievable mindset for something better. You don't live for any longer than the moment that's in front of you. And I think that's replicated by the 2 stupid challenges you've done the last 2 days. You did it. What'd you do? 1,000 kilometers on a exercise bike.
100 kilometers on the exercise bike in the lounge room, and then yesterday we did 1,000 chin-ups. That took me 6 hours 45 minutes. So yeah, struggling to straighten those arms, but
yeah,
that's about growth, man. That's how we push ourselves.
And that's exactly right. I mean, people will think of that and they think crazy. I don't think crazy because I know there's nothing crazy about wanting to improve your emotional resilience, improve the person that you are, and become stronger than the person that you were the day before. And that's exactly what you do. Thank you so much for joining us, dude. I love you to bits. And I encourage every single person to follow and connect with both Damien and Run for Joey and everything that he's up to. See how you can get involved. See how you can help. Hang around people like this because these are the people that inspire you to be better. And as we said before, if you hang around and raise your life standards, your life satisfaction will improve with it. So thanks for joining us all tonight. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow night. I've got another amazing guest. I was going to say that he hasn't gone and done something stupid like 300 kilometers, but he has because he did one with me. So we've got it. There's something with all these people with a strong mindset that have gone and done ridiculous things to hurt their body. But I've learned a lot from it. So thanks for joining us tonight. If you've got any questions, please pop them in and I'll be sure to answer them away from the live feed. But I hope you're all well. Be gentle, stay safe, stay indoors, and continue to be positive and practice that gratitude. Big love and appreciation. Over and out.
Much love for us.